and welcome to Africa Today. I am Esther Mokwariola. From Brexit in Europe to Trump in America, 2016 would easily go down as the year of diplomatic realignments and a shift in political order at a time of unprecedented crisis and instability around the world. Events in the last 12 months continue to portray the worst of mankind, where humanity is almost non-existent, and Africa is no exception. This year, statistics showed that more people had access to mobile phones than they had power supply or clean water, with the world's youngest and poorest population said to be in Africa. Also, we ask, what are your thoughts on political and economic developments across Africa in the course of 2016? You can join the conversation and share your thoughts with us on Twitter at TVC Connect. A report to launch the program in Africa Today will continue. Welcome on board.
Tension is mounting in the Democratic Republic of Congo as security forces have shot dead several protesters who had gathered in the capital, Kinshasa, to demand that incumbent President Joseph Kabila steps down after his mandate expired on the 19th. Kabila is facing one of his biggest tests yet, as his opponents accuse him of intentionally delaying elections to allow him to stay in charge of Africa's biggest producer of copper. Meanwhile, TRC's newly elected Prime Minister, Sami Badimbanga, whose appointment in that of the new cabinet was announced minutes before the end of Kabila's second official term, is calling for calm in the troubled spots.
L'annonce de la formation du gouvernement d'union nationale.
The announcement of the new government of national unity marks an important stage in the effective setting up of the global political accord of the 18th of October 2016. It is also a symbol of peace, of national cohesion, and of hope for the future elections and social welfare. As I prepare to take up my role as the head of this government of wide consensus, I wish to appeal for peace, tranquility throughout the Republic. The government is taking measures through the forces of law and order to ensure that public order is strictly respected, in the respect of law and freedom for all.
President Kabila says the decision to put the vote back until April 2018 was out of his hands, as the Constitutional Court has ruled he would stay in office until elections, which was delayed because of logistical and financial problems, are held. The United States and European Union, including the country's former colonial power Belgium, have called for Kabila to respect the Constitution. President Joseph Kabila's resistance to end his mandate comes alongside Gambia's strongman Yahya Jammeh, who has also failed to accept defeat after the democratic election. Rather, protests have increased immensely in the country. Kabila faces the same threat if he does not back down, as the Congolese people will not accept his continuation.
In a world of endless turmoil and neglected conflicts, millions were forced to flee their homes in 2016, with Africa standing out as a case study for observers. From South Sudan to Burundi, Central African Republic to Democratic Republic of Congo, it was all about conflicts that defied intellect and common sense. Joining me in the studio on Africa Today, I have SEYI Martins, a lawyer and a political analyst. Thanks a lot for being here.
You're welcome.
And on Skype, I'll have Dr. GNAKA LAGOKE, an Ivorian political analyst based in the United States. Thanks a lot as well for being a part of the program.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Right, let's start the show with you now, SEYI Martins. Lingering crisis across Africa. We can look at South Sudan and other, countries that we've mentioned over the course of the program. But why do we still have them? Even if we know the solution, why does this continue to linger?
Well, Africa seems to be neglected. Well, you will say the problem in Iraq, in Syria, dominated world politics. And as such, whatever was happening in Africa seemed to be de minimis to the world powers. So it happened at such a time that countries in Africa didn't seem to get their acts together majority of what happened in the year 2016 was sort of fragmentation in various places, South Sudan, Burundi, Zimbabwe, Gambia, even here in Nigeria. The world refused to see that because they had other commitments, which they seemed to, that occupied the space which Africa sort of was shut out. And when we looked at some of the things that happened, some of the troubles we experienced in Africa, it just shows that because nobody was policing us, even the African Union was almost comatose at the stage. The West African ECOWAS sub-region, as a matter of fact, didn't know what to do for a long time, celebrating its 40th anniversary and all of that. It just seemed that this fragmented spaces in all of Africa, nobody was questioning, from Burundi, from Congo, DR Congo, and even in Zimbabwe. Who questions what is going on there? So Africa had been left alone to manage its turf, while other people, other countries like Nigeria, which had its election issue, running the issue of corruption and so many things that's been going on, made it difficult for even Nigeria, that used to play the leading role, to do or to interfere in some of this country. Same for South Africa, with the corruption that is going on with a credibility issue with President Zuma.
So it's more of a case of African countries having problem with themselves rather than dealing with the problems on hand.
Nobody was there to even caution the other. It was such a tumultuous year for Africa, and that was why we had so much of that problem.
All right, GNAKA LAGOKE, you just heard my guest giving his own view on why he thinks the lingering crisis in Africa still persists. What are your thoughts on that?
Thanks again for the opportunity. I could not hear everything he said, but it looks like he was giving a gloomy picture of what is going on in Africa. And even though we're still facing some challenges in Africa related to corruption, poverty, and poor leadership, and also some civil wars like in Sudan. But my assessment is that Africa is moving forward. There are many positive things that are happening on the continent of Africa. And we have recently a peaceful transition of power in Ghana. And we had also a peaceful transition of power in Benin. And then even though it was in 2015, the election in Nigeria, it was a very important piece of what is of the positive story in Africa. And, you know, there are many other things, and there is a growing Pan-African consciousness on the continent of Africa. And the people who rose in Burkina and Senegal, who are in support of what is going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, all those things are positive signs that, you know, we need to look at.
But aside from the positives, the negatives will speak a lot. Look at what is happening in Burundi and the DRC, like you earlier mentioned, where Joseph Kabila refuses to, well, he is, elongating his stay in power using the courts. But in the case of Burundi, Pierre Nkurunziza has refused to leave. And now we have another case happening just recently, Yahya Jammeh of Gambia. Why do we have cases like this that seem to have no solutions?
No, there are some solutions. You know, even what Yahya Jammeh is doing, you know, when I suggest that we look at the positive side, you know, the resistance of the people in the Gambia, you know, the pressure coming, you know, from different parts of the world, within Africa and outside Africa, against the attitude of Yahya Jammeh, and even what's happening in Burundi. My point is that, yes, many African countries became independent less than 60 years ago. And this is one point. Second, we are still suffering from the neo-colonial interference in our domestic affairs. Number three, that we do not have a strong public opinion, still strong enough to prevent the attitude of people like Yahya Jammeh. But again, we have Burundi, we have the Democratic Republic of Congo, we have Congo Brazzaville, and then we have all in Sudan. All those regions are not positive signs. But despite that, on the other hand, we can see many other good things happening. But if we want to look at just the issue of democracy on the continent, we note that somehow in the southern part of Africa, the people seem to be accustomed, to the democracy somehow. Even though in Zimbabwe, we can denounce what Mugabe is doing.
All right.
But in West Africa, things are moving in the right direction, despite what that Jammeh is doing.
All
Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Senegal. So all the things are positive elements that we need to see.
All right, let's hold your thoughts. We need to go on this very quick break. You're watching Africa Today, and we've been looking at the political and socio-economic developments in Africa in 2016. Stay with us here for more. In the course of the year, thousands of migrants across the continent embarked on a dangerous journey through the Mediterranean Sea in search of a better life, with Libya acting as a major gateway to Europe. Well, I still have in the studio Mr. SEYI Martins, a political analyst, here with me to discuss this issue. And of course, I have on Skype GNAKA LAGOKE from the United States. Well, now, let's start with you, SEYI.
Yeah.
Migration concerns.
Indeed,
across Africa.
I want to agree very much with Mr. LAGOKE in the US over the positive things that's been going on. The evolution of our democracy is heating up because of this fight against corruption. Everybody in the developed world talks about corruption in Africa, and it's one thing that we must fight. And Nigeria is taking a very bold step in doing so. So we expect countries like South Africa, which is what is going on with the public prosecutor and all of what is coming out now with respect to President Zuma and several other African countries. But having said that, though, if you look at the pragmatic way, the level of corruption, every other person looks at African governments. Once a nation starts fighting, it's a plus for that nation.
True. And
since we are beginning to see that it's trickling to other nations, from Nigeria, Ghana experiencing a wonderful, a peaceful election, and everybody trying to do things orderly, charging people. What is going on in the Gambia, the corruption, the level of silliness that caused this election to take a very unusual turn. These are the things people are looking at. But when you look at the troubled states, DR Congo, Burundi, Zimbabwe, why people are transiting, wanting to go to Europe. The former governments like such as Belgium, does not want anyone from Africa because of what is going on in the European Union. With respect to Syria and all the Mediterranean and those countries where there are wars and everybody wants them to go into Europe. This country cannot take a lot of Africans because they had to contend with refugees from Syria and all of the Middle East. People going from Africa are still going into dangerous territories such as Libya. Since Gaddafi died, Libya had not been stable, and it is not likely to be so for a while now. And when you get there, because of the trafficking, the level of trafficking that goes on the coast of Libya into Europe, that route has been noted. That is why everybody is trying from these dangerous places, wanting to get out. Even in Nigeria, people are still going through the dangerous route in the Mediterranean to get into Europe. Having said that, things are going well, and we still have more problems in the political space. The socio-economic aspects of most African countries have been depleted because they're not getting the attention of the European Union or the Western world in America and all of those places that we get help from.
True.
Japan and all of those. It's not coming to us. Everybody is focusing on the Middle East. How do we stop the war in the Middle East? And all of this, because 2016 was an election year, or rather is an election year, everybody seemed to be seriously concerned
about the elections,
with that domesticated area of social that made other countries secondary. So these are the things that happened in Africa that Africa lost out. And we seem to be on the negative side. All
right, let's quickly get to GNAKA LAGOKE. Trey Martins made some points that could have been triggered the migration of people leaving their countries over different reasons. But what are your thoughts on this, and how can we ensure that we do not have a repeat of such in 2017?
Yeah, on this, of course, I have to agree somehow with your guest. And yes, it's a very sad situation. The fact that many Africans are trying to go to Europe, and because, of course, there is a situation of despair, and many do not see opportunities on the continent of Africa. And, of course, we can blame the leaders, and at the same time, that will be my position. It is when we can promote a strong Pan-African consciousness, when we can try to see the virtues and then the values and then the resources that we have on the continent of Africa. These situations should push Africans to see how we can try to transform the resources that we have that we are not transforming. If the state is not doing it, it should be upon those who think that there is no hope on the continent of Africa to try and see how they can fight and battle to try and transform whatever resources we can have. I can just give an example. There is a tree in Senegal called neem, and I just give that an example that you can see in different parts of the world, different parts of Africa, different types of trees. So if people in India can try to use that neem tree to do toothpaste and to do cosmetic products, to do different types of products, if the state of Senegal is not doing it, it can be the regular citizens who should say, the people are trying to do it somewhere in India, we can try and do it, and these people can change their own lives if the state is failing them. That will be my position on this issue of migration. But again, since the beginning of the world, people have been migrating. It is nothing new. And then the same way we Africans are going to the European countries, the same way there are some Europeans who are still migrating to Africa because there is no hope today in Western Europe.
All right, it seems like it's a two-way thing, Africans and the Europeans moving up and down.
Well, the Europeans are coming here to milk the dollar that we don't have. Yes, because what do they say? They say an economy that is buoyant. They say an economy that is terrific, that a profit is what they are looking at. One, labor is cheap in Africa. There is nowhere else you have the kind of labor you will get in Africa. So all of those people migrating to us, to Africa, they're coming, all they could see is profit. This place is laden. This is
with
truly
gold,
the continent
materials.
Yes, the continent of milk and honey.
All right, let's look at the issue of security, which has been the top of the issue for some time now. Looking at countries, Nigeria tops the list of security concerns, and also some countries in Africa where some terrorists have made their mark. Kenya is one, Somalia, and the others. But terrorism in Africa now seems to have taken a new dimension where these ones now want to claim authority, as it were, over a government. How can we ensure that we do not have this situation festering into the new year where it becomes a problem?
I want to say it's not going to happen, but let us cast our mind back. In 2011, this nation, Nigeria, wanted Boko Haram to be listed as a terrorist organization that the world can focus on and the world can assist Nigeria to take care of these people who we called insurgents. Madam Clinton at the time, who was Secretary of State of the United States, said no. She disagreed with the FBI. She disagreed with Homeland Security. She disagreed with the CIA. She disagreed with every authority that says Boko Haram is getting help from the likes of ISIS and Al-Shabaab. So they should be classified as a terrorist organization situated in the northeast of Nigeria. Mrs. Clinton said no. And what happened? Even all of those things that the government of Nigeria needed to do at the time, purchase of arms, she blocked it. Why are we crying today? Why are we looking at this? These are some of the issues why personally I didn't agree with her. And all of those times, if you remember, President Obama came to Africa, didn't come to Nigeria. Why? Because of the policy of the United States against Nigeria. So security issue, we've been left to battle with it on our own. Al-Shabaab in Kenya did all of the bad things they did because they got support from ISIS. Yes, while the world was focusing on ISIS and Syria and what is going on in the Middle East, these people, the cells that they had kept growing. And of course, they didn't leave out Boko Haram.
So, but in a nutshell, what are you trying to say now?
That the security issue, now that the democratic government in the United States has gone,
all right,
it's going to take a different turn.
Let's quickly get the thoughts of GNAKA LAGOKE. Do you share the same sentiment with my guest here in the studio?
No, I want to commend, your guest on his position on the issue of Boko Haram and the reaction of the United States, and particularly of Hillary Clinton. And I like it because usually when we talk about our issues, we tend to think that, we are the sole responsible of our African tragedy. And then we do not want, sometimes there are those who want always to excuse, the Europeans. But if terrorism is prospering in Africa, yes, we have our responsibility. But they're getting the weapons, from who? From those who are selling weapons. And we heard, for instance, that the French, for instance, are providing weapons, to Boko Haram, and then some of the weapons, were seized in Cameroon. So this is the situation. And again, with your guest, I believe that it is upon us, to come as one, because we are facing the common threat, in this case, which is terrorism. Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Benin, or Chad, all those countries, we need to come together with a Pan-African framework of security, so that we can fight together and reduce the threat of terrorism on the continent of Africa.
All right, on that positive note, GNAKA LAGOKE, we must thank you very much for your contributions on the program, and as well, SEYI Martins, thank you very much for your thoughts.
You're welcome.
Shared here on the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, 2016 may not have gone as planned for millions across Africa, but almost the doom and gloom are events that inspire the living to be thankful and keep hope alive. This year, history was made, lessons were learned, and one can only look forward to a more fulfilling 2017 where dreams come true. And that's our package for today. But don't forget to join the conversation on Twitter at TVC Connect, and also follow me for updates around Africa at Esther TVC News. Until the next one, I am Esther Amokwariola, and always remember, this is Africa. Bye for now.